Reason for the formula? I want to utilize my guidance system effectively. How do I know I'm having success with the formula? I feel good. So that's the scenario. I'm feeling negative emotion because I'm having a knee-jerk response to something. I've trended there in the general vicinity often enough that it's not a non-issue, it's an issue. That's why I'm having negative emotion. Negative emotion is showing me that I'm not in agreement with my inner being. I accept that my inner being has a perspective of everything I have a perspective of. And I accept that when I have negative emotion, that our perspectives differ. So therefore, it would be accurate to say, if I really believe in my inner being and I really believe in the goodness and alignment of my inner being, it would be accurate to say, whenever I feel negative emotion, I'm telling something different than my inner being is telling it, and I choose to know my inner being is truth. Therefore, I'm telling myself a lie every time I feel negative emotion. And I would like to catch myself in the early stages of it so I can deflect it when it's easy. But if I'm like most humans, and I am, I've been practicing a sort of defensive posture because I want to be good, I want to get it right. I've worked hard on my opinions, and law of attraction has supported every opinion I have with truth, with fact, with evidence that seems like truth. There it is, right there in front of me. That's not a lie. It's right there for me to see. So, but I'm feeling negative emotion, which means my inner being sees it differently, which means I've departed from the truth of what my inner being sees. And so now that I have this awareness, I feel less inclined to defend my position because I've already established that it's a position I don't want to defend. I always wanted to defend it before because I wanted to be right in terms of the calibration that I'd done to society and all the world. But now I have a new standard. I want to defend this right, not whatever else is going on. I want to double down on what my inner being knows, not on what I've picked up along my physical trail. Esther calls that doubling up. It's vibrationally accurate. So let's clean this up just a little bit. So something happened, I feel negative emotion, and I'm defensive about it because, and here's what you're reaching for. This is the piece that we haven't given you all, that is the piece that you must put in place for any of this to really work for you. This is the piece. When I feel negative emotion, I've departed from the perspective of my inner being because my inner being has calibrated in more lifetimes and situations than I can even contemplate, and has discovered through that evolution true love, pure love, that I am wanting to rediscover here and now. So the negative emotion that I feel is pointing out my departure. It's important for me to use my guidance system in order to choose. And what people struggle with is they want to use their free will to choose anything. Their free will means more to them. Their desire to be right means more to them than their desire to feel good. That's the only reason that it ever gets wonky for any of you. Your desire to be right is more important to so many humans, more important than their desire to feel good. So it's our expectation that you will see more clearly how important being right has become to so many of you, because you think you're in competition for rightness. In other words, there's a trending of unworthiness that is beneath almost all negative emotion. And that's what this formula will help you uncover in a matter of a few days that most people never uncover in a whole lifetime, because they're starting from flawed premises. In other words, if you don't accept your inherent goodness, you don't have a chance of being happy in this experience. And there is so much evidence of unhappiness that then you come to the conclusion that the unhappy experiences exist because you must not be good, when it's the not believing that you are good that is at the root of the perpetuation of the experiences. So let's step back. You all right out there? We know this is way out there in the twilight zone. So let's stand back and take a bigger picture. Let's take a snapshot of planet Earth just for a moment. And let's think about some of the big issues or subjects that have people all in upheaval. And let's see if we can walk through 2 or 3 of them and expose a lie that will free you from your discomfort. So you've been living life and you've come to your conclusions or opinions about things. In other words, Esther used to say to Jerry every now and again, people are so mean. And Jerry would say, mean people are mean. Which sort of woke Esther up a little bit, because all people aren't mean, but mean people are mean. Mean people are mean. And so mean people are mean. Esther sees a mean person and says, mean people are mean. And Abraham says, mean people are mean. Resistant people don't feel good, and people that don't feel good behave in ways that you could describe with that word mean. But if Esther then tries to assign motive to it, well, that person is mean because they want to control, or because they want to get even with. When you start assigning the motive, not just observing the situation, but so that you're actually pushing against what someone else is doing. You depart from your inner being every time, because your inner being never pushes against anything, because your inner being isn't trying to get anybody to be or do anything that they're not choosing to do, because you came with free will and you all get to choose, and your planet is big enough for all of you to create your own reality without getting in anybody's way. If you didn't stick your nose in their business and make it your business by using whatever they're doing to point out to yourself that there's an unfairness or an injustice happening to you, and that's the lie. There is not an unfairness or an injustice happening to you. It is all attraction every single time. And so now you're in a situation where you are on the brink of what we call a paradigm shift, what you might want to call that too. It's like a tipping point. And what a tipping point can happen, we've been wanting to bring tipping points about. Esther has a friend who lives in Colorado who bought a ski lodge, a cross-country ski lodge on the border of a national park. And she said, there are so many things to be afraid of here, I've had to give a lot of them up. So there are so many things in your world that have come to the forefront through your social media and your news medias and what people are talking about here and things that have been imposed that are hindering your free-flowing movement and such, that you come to the conclusion that there are so many things that are wrong with this world. We're slipping backwards. We're losing our freedoms. We don't have the power that we once had. In other words, it's being described to you in lots of different ways, none of which your inner being is in agreement with. But as a lot of you are having these knee-jerk reactions, what do you know from what you have learned from us and perhaps others about the way this universe works? When someone knows what they don't want, they know what they do want. when billions of people are simultaneously knowing what they don't want, and we might point out that it's opposite things all the time. In other words, I don't want immigration and I do, and both sides are pushing against whatever it is. So all of them are putting something into the vortex, and what's in the vortex is now focused upon by all of those billions of people's inner beings. So what do you think is happening when there is a lot of focus on something? What do you think is happening as law of attraction responds to that? Massive cooperative components to those desires are being gathered. That'll make you feel tension. In other words, that's a powerful, powerful, powerful wanting that is happening, that you all are having some relationship to. In other words, this vortex that is calling you with a power and a steadiness and a supersonic attractionness, the likes of which you have never seen before. And your alignment makes you have a blissful life, and your lack of alignment is beating you up pretty good. So what's happening to you? What happens to you when there are too many things to be afraid of that you just can't contemplate them all? You give some of them up. We want you to give them all up. You give some of them up. You stop trying to get anybody to understand you. You stop trying to get other people to do things that make you feel better. You allow the population that you're aware of to express their free will in the way that they intended to come forth, and you do the same. You calibrate to your inner being, and you find happiness where you are, and you want the same for them, but you don't give them a list of requirements that they need to do. And when you stop doubling down on your need to control what others are due, then and only then will you be free. Then and only then will your cork float. Then and only then will you be in alignment with who you really are. And then and only then will you be in a position where what's in your vortex can flow into your experience. And others will watch and they'll say, what's going on with you? You're just not normal. You're not supposed to be able to just ask and receive. How are you justifying or defending or proving your worthiness? And you say, I never had to prove that. I just didn't know it. And I really caused myself a lot of grief trying to do something that was, first of all, impossible to do, and second, had nothing to do with anything. That's the formula. If you're skipping along having a glorious day, people are looking at you like, you should be suffering more. These are hard times. You should be suffering a whole lot more right now. And if you try to explain, no, everything's okay, it's in the vortex, they'll just lock you up. You're certifiable. You're dreaming about something that isn't. Look at the reality. And you say, I've been looking at reality, and it upsets me, so I don't look at it anymore. And they say, head in the sand. You're not facing reality, you're delusional. And you say, yeah, well, it feels better. And they say, oh, well, you can't just go by what feels better. You have to find the right path, and the right path is a hard path. It's a disciplined path. And if you're not on it, you'll be punished. Not here in this lifetime so much. You can't tell that. You have to wait till you croak and you're in heaven or hell. That's where you get your reward or punishment. We say, really? Looks to us pretty much like people are reaping the results of how they are focused right here and now. There isn't a later joyful or unjoyful experience. It's moment by moment. It's guidance system in real time, right here and now. Are you love or are you hate? Can you tell the difference? You don't have to focus very long before you start trending in the direction of something that separates you from who you are. This was a really fun conversation. And for now, we are complete.